so far just now. Now we're gonna move on to something complex, something tricky, and but if you don't get these, you're gonna have a lot of problem because this is the building block of psychology. And to this day, I encounter students of A2 not sure what's the IB, what's the DB. So please, when you read your books or when you revise these lectures or whatever, be very, very sure that you revise the concept of what's the IB, what's the DB. All right, moving on. Uh, all right, settings. So in psychology, what we can do is we conduct experiments uh, for in we conduct experiments in various settings. So what's going to happen is sometimes we're going to conduct our experiments in a lab. Makes sense. Sometimes we're going to conduct our experiments in a naturalistic environment, such as a shopping mall, such as a park. So there's a field experiment and there's a naturalistic experiment. So there are three specific type of setting where our experiments are going to be conducted. And every setting has its own weakness and has its own strength. Lab experiment makes sense, is a psychological lab very specifically designed to conduct scientific experiments. So that's lab setting. The lab setting is going to be artificial in nature. Lab setting is artificial because obviously it's purposely built for the experiment that's going to be conducted. So the environment that you get inside a lab is not realistic, is completely artificial or completely purpose built for that specific scenario, nothing else. So because as a psychologist, I'm going to design the lab in a manner to accommodate the experiment that I'm conducting. Let's suppose I want to investigate whether temperature affects a student's exam performance. So I'm going to have one kid sitting in the hot temperature and the other kid sitting in the cold temperature, and I'm going to see which kid scores better on the marks. So I'm going to purposely design that room to change the temperature settings. And because the room is designed by me, I'm going to make sure that there is no other extraneous variables that is going to cause problems in my result. What do I mean? I'm going to make sure that the lighting is same for everyone. I'm going to make sure that this is AS topic so far, but this is AS. We're continuing on with the AS because majority of the students are here with AS. So this is AS right now. So we're continuing on with the AS, if anyone has the confusion. So settings are part of research methods for AS. So all right, lab experiments are artificially built. So let's suppose the experiment that I just mentioned, that I want to see temperatures effect on students. So if I build the room, right, I'm going to make sure that the student who sits in the hot room and the cold room, they all have equal amounts of light. Because let's suppose if a student in the cold room sits in the dark light, and so if a student in the hot room sits in a bright light setting, the light setting will cause different results, and it's going to ruin my experiments because my experiment was supposed to be about temperature difference, not light difference. So I'm going to make sure that every single other variable is going to be controlled. So it's going to be artificial, it's going to be controlled. Now, if it's controlled, it's going to guarantee that I get a causal relationship. But because it's artificial, what it means is the results are not realistic or are not externally valid. If you don't understand what the word externally valid means, to keep it simple, I'm going to say it's not realistic. So the results might not be realistic. What do I mean? Someone says, okay, yes, sir, the results can be applied in that particular setting, but in real life, it does not happen because in real life, no one gives exam in different temperatures. Every single kid gives an exam in the same exam center, in the same temperature setting. So your experiment is not realistic enough. And I agree. So that experiment may not be realistic. So that's the weakness of lab settings. Strength, it can give you causal relationship. Weakness, it's not realistic. Field setting is an experiment that is conducted in a natural setting or in a setting that a person normally may encounter themselves to be in. What do I mean? Let's suppose I want to conduct an experiment about shopping. Which products are bought by people more? red products or blue products. If I do it in a lab, right, it won't make sense. So I need to do it in a shopping mall, because shopping malls is a natural place where people buy things. So to do this experiment, if I do it in a shopping mall, the results are gonna be, yes, realistic. That's an advantage. Externally valid. So it's gonna be realistic. That's an advantage. But the bad thing about doing it at a shopping mall is there are other things that can distract people and affect my result. For example, what if that there is a shop selling yellow items and it's just there because it's just part of the mall and I cannot do anything about it. Let's suppose there is a store of Gulamat and they have yellow outfits, like in stock, and people are going to go there to buy, and my experiment is now ruined. So therefore my results can be impacted of many different factors which I cannot control because it's not in my control. So my results that I get, or the experiment, will not give me a causal relationship. That's a bad point, but it is gonna be realistic. All right, so last is the naturalistic, and after that I think we're gonna wrap it up for AS. Naturalistic. Naturalistic is something where things are gonna happen on its own and you're not gonna do anything about it. You're just gonna sit back and watch. Think of it this way, that you're gonna just sit back and observe people. As an experimenter, if you go back to the field experiment example where you introduce a red product and a blue product and see which one people buy. See, the red product and the blue product are introduced by you, right? You introduced them. They weren't there before. So if you introduce any variable in the environment, or if you introduce any IV by yourself in a natural setting, is gonna be called a field experiment. I'm gonna repeat again. If you as an experimenter introduce or manipulate any IV in an environment which is natural, field related, not lab, not artificial, natural. And if you introduce an IV there, let's suppose if I do an experiment in the park, I want to know that which animals people go to pet, like which animals are liked by people in the park, and if I bring those animals by myself in the park, that's going to be a field experiment. But if those animals were present beforehand and I had nothing to do with them, and they were there by themselves naturally in a natural setting, is going to be known as a natural experiment. So the only difference between a field and a natural experiment is who is introducing the IV. If the IV is introduced by me or the experimenter, field experiment. If they were present naturally, naturalistic experiment. And the advantages and the disadvantages of the naturalistic experiment are same as field experiment, but because the variables were present by themselves beforehand, it's going to be more realistic. Is everything making sense so far? All right. One student says, "Yep." What about else? Atika, Fiza, Omar. What about you guys? All right, Omar is in. All right, Omar says yes. Omar says yes. All right. Atika, you're remaining. Please repeat artificial setting one too. All right, the artificial setting one is gonna be known as a lab experiment. So let's suppose I'm gonna conduct an experiment in a lab in a room that is I built. I built the room, right? So who built the room? I built the room. So obviously it's artificial, not natural. Let's suppose in a room, I take you in a room, right? I invite you in a university, and in the university there's a room. I take you inside the room and I sit you in a dark room, right? and in the dark room I basically check whether you can write better or not. And same way I will take another student in the university, and I will put them in the bright room, and I will see if they can write better or not. See, the rooms are constructed by me, or the room itself, जो कमरा होता है, the room, cement walls, four walls are man-made. It's not a realistic experiment. The best way to do it was I take you in a park at night and you solve the question, and I take you in the park at day and I make you solve the question, right? That park is gonna be a natural experiment, a naturalistic setting, but the room itself is artificial. So hence all the lab experiments are going to be artificial in nature because they're conducted in a room that is purposely built for the experiment. Why is a purpose built room bad or good? Because it controls every other variable in question. What do I mean? Let's suppose I'm going to find out whether light settings affect a student's performance. So I need the light to be a difference maker. What if in one room you will have noise as well? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna control the noise in both of the rooms, that both of the rooms don't get any noise or get the same noise. I'm gonna make sure there's no difference in noise so that the noise does not become a factor in you doing good or worse. All right, what is it? Will you be giving a demo for AA2 as well? I'm gonna come on to that question later on. But all right, is this point clear for lab and for lab field and naturalistic? All right, all right, all right. The students for A2 can stay back. I think we're done for AS demo. So I'm gonna keep the AS demo for here for now short. A2 students, I need you to stay back. Thank you. A2 students, please stay back. Otherwise, AS students can leave. There's no problem. You can give your feedback to the institute itself. Visa has gone. All right. Is the people remaining here, are they A2 students? All of them.
Yes.
All right. Umar, what about you? A2 student or AS student? All right. Umar has a question. I'm going to clarify that. Yes, mall is an artificial, but the task that I have assigned people to do in a mall is natural in the sense of a mall because people are not going to buy things in a park, right? So where things occur, yes, sir, I'll be have okay. Where things occur, you have to take that into account. Let's suppose I conduct an experiment about learning inside a school. School does learning, right? So if I do an experiment of learning inside the school, that's going to be completely fine. That's going to be a natural setting. Shopping in a mall, natural setting. But let's suppose I do an experiment of uh I do an experiment of like blood exposure. I show people blood, and I show people blood inside a university room. That's gonna be an artificial setting because people see blood in the hospital, right? So you have to consider the nature of what's gonna happen and where it's happening. Is that point clear, Umar? All right. Uh, you guys tell me what. So there are four areas of A2 psychology. Organization. I'm gonna type it down to make things easier for you. All right, so there's organizational psychology, there's abnormal psychology, there's consumer psychology, there is health psychology. Unfortunately, I don't do consumer psychology. The other three areas I can do. You guys, what you do as A2 kids is choose two areas that you want to study out of these three. I cannot do consumer because that's not my specialty. Other three I can do. So you guys need to be in agreement of what two areas you all want to study. Abnormality in health. I have, oh, how many kids do I have? I have, there was pizza. I don't know where's pizza gone. So I have three kids. One of them says abnormality in health. What about humor? You have any other answer, or you fine with that? All right, pizza is gone. All right, so we have abnormality in health. All right. Uh, are you both bio students, biology students, medical students? All right, all right, all right. The meeting is going to end in 1 minute. All right. So what I can do, I can send you a new link and we can have further conversation on that.